Hey, welcome. Okay, it's great now that you're all logged in. That's fantastic. It's good to see so many of you, and I've had a load of emails from a few people who won't be able to make it here live. So I know we're sending out to. Oh, hey Emma, good to see you back up. So Michelle and Clary, Dell, Burr, Holly. There's a whole load actually. Ellen, Jim, Adrian, Gail. Caroline, Siobhan, Marla, Amy, and Denise are all going to be here, hopefully on the replay. So it was great to see you too. So just to kind of give you a little idea of what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a little introduction to me, a little bit of background to what I do, where I come from, how I ended up in this situation, what kind of yoga I do, what I mean even by yoga, because even that, like, who knows. And then I'm going to go through the course, a little bit of background about the structure of the course, how it's going to work, and what's covered in it, what's not covered in it, and the timings of it, that kind of stuff. And then I'm going to so I'll use the go through some of that theory, some of that information. And then I've had a few questions that have been emailed in to me. And also, if you have any questions, you can type them there into the chat as you go. And type them into the chat and I will get to them at the end. If there's something that's really burning and you want to ask me immediately, then do that. But other than that, I'll hold on to all of the questions because I may come to them, I may answer them as we go. So brilliant. Sit back. If you haven't got yourself a cup of tea, get yourself a cup of tea, and we'll just plow on. So the very first thing I'd like us to do is just to land, because I don't know about you, but you know, it's Christmas, so who knows what you've been doing to be able to get this moment for yourself. So just take a breath. Take a breath and feel your feet or feel your butt if you're sitting on a chair. And just allow yourself be. Who knows, you might be, if you're watching this on the replay, you might be going for a walk, just taking some time out. So whatever position you're in, no matter where you are, just allow yourself land. Take her and give yourself permission to just be here. And that for me is the key to all of this training, is to allow ourselves be present, to give ourselves that gift. Some people might be interested in yoga teacher training from the point of view of teaching, but some people are interested in it from the point of view of only using it for themselves and developing their own understanding and their own practice, going a little bit deeper. And here's the reality, no matter which you know, they're two sort of spectrums, you know, I'm going to teach to hundreds and thousands of people, or I'm not going to teach publicly at all. But no matter where we are on this spectrum, and where you move during your life, because that will change, it could change during your life. Regardless, where you come into it is coming from yourself. Giving yourself this gift, giving yourself time, making space so that you can practice, but also you can be curious about your practice. So anyway, who am I and where? I'm Laura, and I set up Aruna Yoga. I'm about 10 years full-time yoga teacher and trainer. Before that, I'm about 30, just over 32 years practicing yoga, and about 28 years full-time meditation. I came across yoga when I was in college. When I was two, I was only two. No, when I was in college, I went into a room and we were looking for somewhere to study. I just plonked into a classroom, and there was a load of people standing on their heads or trying to get on their heads, stand on their heads. And I was fascinated. So the next week, I had rallied a few friends. I didn't know the word yoga. Someone said it was yoga. I didn't know what that meant. Rallied a few friends. We went back, and that was it. 6 years I went to that class. 6 years, that class started with a headstand. Could you imagine a yoga class that starts with a headstand? But that's the way they did it. And after 6 years, I was kind of maybe just about ish, kind of against the wall, maybe on a good day, able to do a headstand. So I can now do a headstand, but back then, so yes, slow and steady wins the day. So that was my introduction to yoga. And then when I left college and started working, I found a phenomenal yoga teacher, Linda in Leixlip, and I was her student then for the next 20 years or so, for as long as she was available, as she was around. And the type of yoga that I teach, that I do, so in the beginning, I mean, I've kind of done a whole range of stuff. Like I say, I started with that particular school of yoga where it was a set sequence. I spent a couple of years where my personal practice was Ashtanga. I've taught restorative yoga for maybe 5 or 6 years every Friday night. For 5 or 6 years, it was restorative yoga. Yoga therapy is I'm very much from a yoga therapy background. When I trained initially, it was in yoga therapy. So while Hatha yoga, which is pretty much all encompassing, is what I would teach, it was always very much from a therapeutic point of view. So hence, while there are strong classes, there's also why are you doing what you're doing and how does it support your body? So all of the time it was about why do we want to do something? What benefit do you want to get out of it? And how can you, for yourself, get that best benefit? And then more recently, I've moved a little bit into somatics and done a sort of a somatic-based teacher training there for the last couple of years, and into embodied yoga. And that's at a Bonnie Bainbridge. So that's taken it to a whole deeper level again. And that's what I like doing. I like to learn. I like to be challenged. I like to broaden how I teach and what I teach. So it's always going to be coming from a therapeutic point of view. So rather than some of the schools which will say that if you do the yoga, your body will change to suit the poses, I'm very much the opposite way around, that we change the poses to suit the body. And so that in my clinic, I would have a full spectrum. It could be sort of kids, it could be ADHD, it could be injuries, it could be older people who have started to have restrictions in their mobility. Someone who, maybe one of my clients had fallen off a ladder and broken his back in a number of places. So there's the full kind of spectrum of people that will come to the clinic. I've also taught for a number of years in a clinic where it was a rehab clinic. So again, some of the people there have very, very limited movement, very, very restricted movement. And the whole way through to teaching in a gym. Teaching in a gym is fascinating because you've got, in a gym, you have the older people who do the aqua aerobics and the yoga. You've got the recovering people who have pushed themselves too far and have become injured, so they come to the yoga, postnatal, prenatal, and then you'll have at one stage I had this phenomenal guy. He was a cage fighter, all body art, big guy, and he used to come all the time because he knew how much it would support his body because of the type of sport he was involved in, that he really needed to also have his mobility and flexibility developed, as well as all the weight training that he was doing in the martial arts. And so he would be there beside the granny who had the hip replacement, all in the same class. It was great. You learn so much working in that kind of an environment. It's phenomenal. So that's kind of the background, my yoga background. It's quite broad. And what I'm always looking to do in terms of how I teach is that you are supported with the fundamentals, to understand the anatomy, to understand the physiology of how we function, so that then you can bring that to whatever style of yoga that you like. So be it slow restorative, be it fast vinyasa flow, regardless of what, be it somewhere in between, which is where I typically land nowadays. Nowadays I would be kind of a little bit in between in terms of the public classes that I teach. in terms of, so that's kind of the asana side of my background. In terms of the meditation side of my background, I was a stress bunny. Like even as a kid in school, I was a stress bunny. I was the one that was always afraid that the teacher would give out to me for whatever. So when I was working, I'm still a stress bunny. So I trained initially in TM, Transcendental Meditation. And so I meditated twice a day for 20 minutes a day, as they set out for, I don't know, about nearly 10 years. And then after that, I started experimenting and trying out different things. And so was less rigid, less restricted in what I do. And at the minute, I'm deeply involved in iRest, which is Yoga Nidra. And here's an example. I had no interest in Yoga Nidra, which is, for people who don't know, it's where you can lie down and do your meditation. It's called sleeping meditation, but it's not about sleeping. It's about that wisdom that you know, when you just wake up in the morning, you've kind of got this moment of insight. So to get back, come into that state as opposed to just having a sleep. But again, it was something that didn't interest me for maybe 20 years, and now it's something that I'm studying at the minute. So again, I come from quite a broad background across the meditation side. But in terms of the business side, in terms of what do I do and how do I do it, I was originally I was a trainer, but I was maths and computing, and I was in adult education, all right, but it was from a kind of technical financial side, and I burnt out. And then I wanted to study psychology. So in order to study psychology, I gave up my corporate suits job and started studying psychology. And at that stage, then got involved in coaching and life coaching, in philosophy, in a whole other sort of spectrum. And then we ran training companies, another training company. And then I had kids. So in order to support them, I moved into actually primary school teaching, and I worked in a Steiner school, which again is a slightly quirky version. It's not, and you'll notice if you train with me, you'll notice some of the philosophy from the Steiner teaching and how they teach permeates everything I do now. That was it's a very nice module, a very nice method of teaching. And from that, then, when I burnt out doing that, you see, it's a kind of history here. I burnt out in the corporate job because I didn't feed my soul. I burnt out when I worked for myself because I became very frazzled running a training company. I was always worried. Again, I burnt out there. I moved to the Steiner school, and that fed my soul, fed every part of me. And again, I burnt out. So the next time when I was looking to see what I was going to do, I had started to do, I'd always wanted to do yoga teacher training, but it was really, really important to me that I didn't burn out again. At this stage, I had thought it was because it was a soulless job I had, and then I had the most soulful job. I was a Steiner teacher, classroom teacher. It was a dream. It was an absolute dream come true, and it was so nurturing and enriching as a job, but I still burnt out. So I really needed to look at how I was doing my life and what choices I was making. Where was I missing? What was I missing? You know, how can I make one more career change, and this time just have this one see me through? How can I find something that's dynamic enough that will change as I change and grow? Because I don't want to stay stagnant. I want to still be doing this in another 20 or 30 years, but obviously not exactly this. So how can I work in an area that I can become proficient in, become an expert in, and yet learn? How can I find something that will feed my soul, but will also feed my belly? How can I find something that I can be really, really passionate about, and that I can throw myself into heart and soul, but not burn out? How can I do something in a way that I don't burn out? And so that's where I came to yoga teaching. And but what was critical about it was how I was doing my yoga teacher training and my yoga teaching afterwards. And what was different about this was that if I want to say to you, to say to someone in my class, you know, you really, it's a good idea to look after yourself, to do a daily practice. That means I have to do a daily practice. So being a yoga teacher, defining myself as a yoga teacher or a yoga trainer, means that I need a daily meditation practice. It means that I need a daily yoga practice. It means that I need to eat healthily for myself so that I can be a yoga teacher, because I love being a yoga teacher. So I get this support not to allow myself become burnt out. I get to learn about my body. I get to learn the cues and the little triggers. So maybe, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, I discovered that every summer when I burn out, I start reorganizing my bookcases. So I had that external trigger. So now I learned not to do that. If I start to reorganize my bookcases, I'm burning out. So I need a rest instead of reorganizing my bookcases. That was by actions. A few years later, I started to sense it in my body. Now I can tell much, much quicker I need a rest, or I need to move, or I need to, whatever it is that I need to do. And the really critical part isn't just knowing. The next step is actually doing it. And that took me a long time. So I'm still working on that. That's a work in progress. To actually do what I now know I need to do to take care of myself. And to know that I need to take care of myself so that I can then give, that I can offer yoga. And the same way then how I offer yoga, or yoga training in this case, is that it's not about, and this is critical, this is where I definitely, this is very important to me, is that I'm never trying to fix anybody. I'm not even trying to help anybody. I'm never trying to rescue them, and I'm never trying to tell you what you need. So what is it that I do then? If I don't do all of these things, what is it that I do? I create a space. I create a space, and I offer information, and I offer questions, and I support you or the students or whoever to look for yourself, because one of you may need to just go for a run. One of you may need to lie down. One of you may need to make that phone call that you've been blocking or avoiding doing. One of you may have an achy wrist, so not to do dog on the ground, but needs to do it on the wall. One of you may have a dicky hip, and therefore maybe it's not dog at all you need to be doing. So in all of these ways, my role is to support you discover, to inquire, and then as teachers, from that place to support your students to do the same, rather than telling you yoga is fantastic, yoga fixes everything. For me, yoga is a way of life. It's a way of approaching something. So that's really where I'm coming from, is to, as a trainee teacher, that you learn about anatomy, that you learn about philosophy, that you learn about psychology, that you get the best current information that we have available to us, and then you go with that and see, does that fit for me? Does that make sense for me? Does that sit right for me? Is that something that feels true for me? And then if it is, sharing your experience to inspire others to develop their own experience. Knowing that your experience is not their experience and their experience is not your experience. And so from that point of view, we just get to give it away. We get to give away yoga, and what we're giving away is something that they actually already have. So we're really giving them, supporting people, giving people tools so they can connect back to themselves. Because we know, and then we forget. You look at a 2-year-old, a toddler on the ground, you don't have to tell them to get up and move. You don't have to tell them to roll out their wrist. You don't have to tell them anything. They know. You just watch them run around, or roll, younger than that, 6 months, rolling around in the ground without instruction. So we have this information within us, and then we go to school, and we get to sit. We go to have dinner, and we're told to sit and hold our knives and forks. We get in the car, we do whatever. We go to work, and so what's happened is we've forgotten And we no longer trust ourselves, we no longer trust our instincts. And so this is really where I'm coming from, is that by initially saying to someone, well, let's try, see what it feels like to go into what we call dog, which is where you put your hands on the ground, you take your foot in the air, you take your feet this way and see how that feels. And now see, is that something you like? Do you need to twiddle it a bit? Do you need to move it a little bit? What do you need? What does your body require? And then the next stage is, okay, during the day tomorrow, see if there's any time that your body says, that sensation would feel nice. Or maybe pick a time that you do that shape, you make that shape, and see, how does it feel in your body? You know, play with it. So that's where I'm coming from, as what I'm coming from as a yoga teacher, and what the tools that I'd love to give you, as if you choose to study with us, as yoga teachers, so that you have that really solid foundation, and that you have the confidence, because you know you have that foundation. So once you have that information foundation and your actual experience in your own body, that you are then free to inspire others and to support others find it within their body. It's kind of that simple, as if it was. It's a life journey. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. That's sort of where I've come to in that. So what I may have confused you now more than enlightened you, but so what I want to do is just have a little look. I'm going to just have a little look through the, let me share. Oops, I didn't do that. I'm going to share my screen. So share, perfect. And you're just going to be in the corner. Perfect. So I'm just going to, because that's the big picture. That's the idea. That's what I want. That's what I want to inspire and give you. But how do you get those solid foundations? Because that's so far it's been kind of a bit airy fairy, and a little bit kind of, yeah. So let's see, how do we actually turn this into reality? So I'm just going to go through this. You've probably seen this page on the website, but if not, if you've seen it for the first time, there you go. That's me, in case you missed it. Living your dream and sharing your passion. To me, that is absolutely what this is about. Booking closes on the 3rd of January. So there's just a couple of places left. So if you're interested, you let me know and we'll sort that out. What is the training for? It's for everybody who is passionate about yoga, who wants to go deeper for yourself. Now that is really where I'm coming from. And then once you can go deeper for yourself, you can then share it. And you will be sharing this, be it as a public class, or be it within your job, be it within your family. It's not possible, but that once you have found this within you, you know how it is after a yoga class, the day after the yoga class, how you feel and how you share, you just radiate. So you are sharing it by default. So I've talked a little bit about that I've 30-ish plus years. Yoga, meditation, and philosophy. The philosophy, I didn't speak about my philosophy yet, but it's again, I've a variety of different schools of philosophy that I have worked with. The Institute for Self-Actualization initially, then I moved into psychology, actually formal psychology training. Then the Toltecs, I spent a few years working with Toltec teachers and organizing Toltec teachers. That's the 4 agreements. Bringing those teachers to Ireland and working with some teachers from the Toltec tradition. Steiner, obviously in the Steiner school, we had the very inaccessible, but Steiner philosophy. Buddhist philosophy in the practical philosophy. I did that work with them for a few years, and then recently diving much deeper into some of the more the yogi side of things, the Hindu, some of the stories, yes, different sort of myths and stories and legends from Indian tradition. So we have quite a broad spectrum. So again, why we will be focusing on the Bhagavad Gita is actually the text that we will use in the philosophy within this training. By default, I'm going to be I will draw on a much broader spectrum of things. And again, the idea is to see how it connects with you, because philosophy is very much a personal journey. I mean, as much as an asana is a personal journey, when it comes to philosophy, that really is a personal journey. So again, I will be creating the space, asking questions and inviting you to just go and explore, you know. And there's a phenomenal group of women, people that are booked into this. So how we support each other in this will be phenomenal. So yes, that's it. Coming from yoga therapy, integrated anatomy, I'll talk about that in a few minutes, and embodied yoga at the minute, somatics. Also, where this does differentiate is the business training. We will be doing business training the whole way through, which you can use if you wish to run public classes, and even if you don't, there's kind of you can adjust it to suit where your blind spots are and what schools you want to work on. But I've ran training companies, I've been head of department in a 3rd level college, so I have a variety of different both business and educational backgrounds that you should use, you know. And obviously I've been running this, you know, full time for the last 10 years. Like I say, I run a studio. Sonia, who is also teaching on this, also has run a studio in the past. So if that's something that's of interest to you, we've a lot of knowledge about how to do that, and a lot of support around Facebook to get you started, just to get you started. This is again another lifelong journey, but so that you can actually convert this into earning an income if that's what you're interested in. So yes, so you've got the support, like I say, and like I was just been speaking a bit about Sonia, yeah, the group of women that are signed up, excuse me, signed up to date are phenomenal. We have Katie's a primary school teacher, and she's been working with yoga for a long time, but she's also brings that into her classroom. We have a couple of other ladies who are training as kids yoga teachers. We have a lady in who is working in mental health services. We have a few people who are working somebody in recruitment, in events. There's a huge spectrum of backgrounds of people, of dietitian, and all of these people all are going to bring different backgrounds and different passions, and from that we'll just get to nerd out together. It's just it's cool. It's cool. Yes, but so just to address some of the reasons that maybe, because often the fact that you're watching this means you've got the yes. Now here's what happens, and this is just basic 101 psychology, never mind philosophy. Once there comes a yes, straight away comes the no. I'd love to go on holiday to France. Yes, but you know, haven't got the money, or I can't take the time off, or you know, Corona, or Mary's doing a leaving cert, or whatever. As soon as there's a yes, there's a no. That's just the way it is. It's like if you were to say, pick up a coin. A coin has to have 2 sides in it. If you don't have 2 sides in it, it's not a coin. It just is. There just is. Leaving your hand has 2 sides in it. There's always going to be, as soon as there's one, there's the other. So the question is sitting with it and seeing which is it that your gut is which is calling you. So some of the bigger things that I hear: I don't have a yoga body. Well, welcome to my life. Yeah, I was 15 and a half stone when I started teaching yoga. You know, so I think we can get over that. I told you it took me 10 years or whatever, 5, 6 years before I was able to do a headstand. It's grand. And what's really cool about not having a yoga body is most people, even what is, oh, you get me started now. What even is a yoga body? A lot of the stuff on Instagram is so beautiful to look at. It's just gorgeous. You just look at these beautiful bodies making these beautiful shapes. They're dancers, they're gymnasts. That's what they are. That's how and they have maybe been injured in both of those and have moved to yoga. That is a really, really typical place from where a lot of yoga teachers come. And because they can move so beautifully in that dance way, they very quickly become trainers. And then people aspire to be able to move like that. But the vast majority of people don't look like that, don't move like that. the vast majority of people have been injured in some way, or have a little bit of weight, or have pregnancy, haven't recovered their pelvic floor. You have no idea how many people have not yet recovered their pelvic floor after pregnancy. This is the normal mass people. So being a member of that community is really beneficial because you have experience. One of I do a lot of teacher mentoring, and often the teachers that it's the most difficult to mentor, it's not that they're the most difficult to mentor, but the people who have the most difficulty, the teachers that have the most difficulty teaching public classes are the dancers and the people who are hypermobile, because they can't get their mindset, they can't understand where limits are imposed. So they create this class and then they go to teach it, and you're like, that wasn't the way I planned it, because nobody else moves the way they move. So those of us who have a bit of restrictions, a bit of limitations, a bit of tightness, a little bit of whatever, creakiness, we're straight away set up to know what it feels like to be in that body, and to be able, therefore, to imagine what it would be like for somebody else with a different limitation. And a different, and therefore it becomes much easier for us to be able to make those shifts and those changes. So that is, you're sorted there. If you happen to be a gymnast or an ex-gymnast, ex-ballerina, and would like to do the stage training, I would love to have you on it. It would be fantastic, and I can work with you about keeping yourself safe with all this hypermobility. We also have this particular time, you're really lucky. There is a phenomenal student who is hypermobile. So learning about that is really, really important for teacher trainers, for teachers, yoga teachers, to know, to identify hypermobility and to not push people into it, because you're ultimately setting them up for injury. No matter what it looks like, no matter how beautiful it looks, it's much more important that their joints are happy and that they take care of themselves for their long term. Making a fancy pose when they're 20 isn't worth what they'll have to do to pay for that in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. Yeah. I've never taught before, and I'm not sure if I want to teach. Both are fine. So in terms of I've never taught before, I am making that assumption. I know I have a couple of teachers on the training course, but the assumption is that you have never taught before. The assumption is that you are nervous about teaching, and that this is something that you're worrying about. So I'm assuming that, and I'm working from that place. If you already have taught loads and you're very confident teaching, happy days. The teaching part will be easy peasy. But the assumption is that you have never taught before, and I will be bringing you baby steps by baby steps in a really, really supportive way, little bit by little bit by little bit. We've got a year to work on this, so we're building up very slowly. It's a full year, so you don't need to be worrying about it. And you will just each time be just taking the tiniest little bit outside your comfort zone, and then by the end of the year you'll be like, what? I have a full class, I can teach a full class, I've got structure for a class, and I'm ready, and I want to see that transition over the year. But we've loads of time, and you will be really, really, really supported to do that. If you're one of the people that are thinking, I'm doing this for myself, I don't actually ever see myself delivering teacher training, then that's cool too, because what they say is, and I think it was the 7 Habits of a Highly Effective Person is the first place I came across this concept, but it's definitely true in my experience. To learn something in a way to be able to teach it to somebody else means you have really had to become a lot more proficient in it. So even if you don't actually ever plan on teaching anybody ever how to do down dog, if you have to prepare to be able to teach it, then you've had to look at it in a particular way. You've had to get outside yourself, outside of your own body. You've had to question it. You've had to wonder. You've had to break it down. So in all of these ways, even though you may never actually deliver the teaching, the process of learning how to teach is a really big advantage. It takes you to a whole new level. So in the 7 Habits of a Highly Effective Person, the 7th habit is to teach what you learn. So like I say, even if you never actually deliver in a public class, it really supports your learning. I'm too old or too young. Well, I think we've kind of dealt with that. I have one young person coming that I know that's coming. She's going to be doing the training because she wants to be able to travel. And when she finished college, she wants to be able to travel, and this is how she's going to pay for herself to travel around the world. If you're too old, I think the oldest person that I'm aware of doing one of these was about 82. So if you're between that age, in fact, if you can breathe, you know, you can do it. I've already completed a TT. That's great. I know, again, I have somebody who have a person that's already signed up that has. That's great, because you know you're going to learn something new, something different. Different trainers will come from different points of view, will have different perspectives. So great. I've been doing yoga for too long, or I'm too new to yoga. Okay. For all of the Irish people on this, you'll know the story, and for anybody who hasn't grown up with this story, there's a sort of a scene where, as a tourist, and it could be just a person from Dublin that's down in Galway and lost. Sorry, Galway, for picking on you. And they're out in the wilds in the west of somewhere, and they wander. They're trying to find Mary Jo's house, and they find a farmer standing, you know, his arm on the fence, and he's having a, you know, moment. And so you walk up to him and say, "Hey, I'm looking to find, you know, Mary Jo's house out." And the farmer takes a moment and has a look around. And goes, "Yeah, I wouldn't be starting from here." The simple fact is, it doesn't matter where you're starting from, what physical body you're in, what age you're in, what experience you have, what experience you haven't got. This is exactly where you are right now. So the question is, do you want to move from here to there, to have this skill, to be able to be a yoga teacher, to be able to teach public classes or private classes or mixed ability classes or whatever? Would you like to teach, have the skills to teach yoga? So regardless of where you're coming from, what you're bringing is your unique set of skills and experiences. Some of you may have had different life experiences. You'll have had different, lived in different countries. You'll have different cultural experiences. You'll have different numbers of kids or no kids or cats or dogs. So whatever it is that has been in your life to date that has created this person that is here now, this is your gift, and this is what you're looking to develop ourselves continuously, and then to share ourselves. But really, by sharing ourselves, what are we looking to do? We're looking to inspire the other person to be themselves. That's all. We're not looking for anybody to do anything other than be themselves. And so that's, you know, where we're, you know, where we're at. Here's the little things, a video there about what some of the students have said. So if you haven't already had a look at that, have a look at that. And there's 3 different people speaking at different points. That'll give you an idea of how I teach and what their experiences are. Why now? Well, we've already spoke about that. Why now? Because there is only now. Tomorrow is just tomorrow. So if this is something you're thinking about doing, then I would get on it and go for it. You know, 2020 has been a tough year in a lot of ways, and 2021 is going to be different. And coming out of 2021, how yoga is taught is going to be different. So there's been a whole transition as well. So again, it's a good time. A lot of studios have closed. It's a good time to be coming out as a yoga teacher, I think, at the end of 2021, when things settle back down. I think there's no time like the present. So yeah, so it'll be 4 days. So I'll come back to that in a second. A little bit about what the course is covered and how it's structured. So asana, that's the physical poses. I spoke about that already. And about, from my perspective, I'm not going to be teaching you how to do dog, but what I will be looking at doing is, how do you teach somebody else how to do dog? Why do you want to teach them how to do dog? If they have a dicky wrist, what can you do? So all the kind of very simple adjustments. How can you see what needs to be done? And most importantly, how can you have the confidence to ask? Where do you, to give you the confidence to say, are you comfortable? That, to my eye, that does not look comfortable. Are you comfortable? If you change from this to this, which feels better? Try it out, try it on. And to have the confidence to wait and listen. So have the confidence to not think you have to know it all, and to be able to support them find their best pose. What supports them? What is it you want to work on today? What is it that you want benefit from? Where is it that you feel restricted? What is it like if you try this rather than that? So it's a conversation. How do you have that conversation in a group of class, maybe with 12 other students, and yet keep privacy for that student? How do you have that conversation on a platform like Zoom, where maybe the whole communication is different? So what is the conversation you want to have, and how can you have that conversation? So that's kind of the whole asana part of it. So I've also actually talked a little bit there about how you teach it. But pranayama, breath. So the power of the breath, how to teach the breath, simplicity of the breath. Meditation, the same. Looking at a few different ways of meditation. And with meditation, one of the key things is supporting people practice, because people have, my experience, a lot of people have a mental block against it. They think it's hard, or that it should be complicated. So really, how do you support students develop their own practice? The same for asana. How do you support yourself develop your own practice? And these are, as you answer these questions for yourself over the year, you've got a year, you'll know the questions, and you'll know the difficulties, and you'll be able to address them in how you teach. Anatomy. Key to all of the asanas, the underlying structure I want you to have is solid anatomy. I think the anatomy is fundamental, so that you can identify when someone is likely to injure themselves, that you are not putting people into poses that will cause injuries to them, that you know how to support people learn to look after themselves. And to do that, you need strong underlying anatomy. So we will be working on that, but we will be working on anatomy from an integrated perspective. So unlike when I learned originally 10 years ago, when it was all about, your biceps and your triceps, they work as pairs, and they lift and they receive, and we're not, yes, you will still learn about the biceps and the triceps, but we're looking at it from an integrated anatomy point of view. So if you just notice on your top, put your hand down to your belly, and you lift your arm. As you lift your arm, can you feel that your top at your belly, down at your belly, has moved? So we have this thing the whole way through our body, connective tissue. So once we do something here with this part, the other part has an effect. It has an effect on the rest of our body. So rather than breaking it down and isolating it to individual parts, which we will do because you need to learn those individual parts, but we want to put it together. Also, I don't want you to be afraid of the anatomy, because I don't care whether you learn the name of any bone or any muscle ever. I do not care. I'm much more interested in that you are safe. If names come easy to you, learn the names, because they're kind of cool to know. You may or may not want to use them in your classes, depending on what level you want to teach your classes at and who your audience are. But it's fascinating how many people don't know where their glutes are. So, or where different parts of their body is. You say to someone, put your hand on your heart, and you could have all sorts of variations on the theme. So how important is it? So looking at anatomy, looking at integrated anatomy, looking at particularly the musculoskeletal system in the first year. The training course is certified by Yoga Alliance Professionals. That is an international certification, which means then that you can get your insurance, and you can teach yoga internationally or nationally or wherever you like. Yoga Alliance Professional do organize insurance, or there's loads of other people that will organize insurance for you once you're associated with this body. Insurance for the US and Canada is different. So just be aware, if you're doing anything online, that typically your insurance will not cover US and Canada unless you have specified them, because they obviously have whole other legislation. They're just a whole other ballgame. So just kind of have that in your mind. The business of yoga. This is where, again, was very lacking in my teacher training and in a lot of teacher trainings. This is where we will work with you to support you to make the leap, because you could be the best yoga teacher in the entire world, but if nobody knows about you and you're not, how are you ever going to get people? So for me, putting my face taking a photograph with my face, you have no idea how difficult that was. Now I know you see nothing but my face all over the place now. So there was a transition, and it didn't happen overnight. So again, I'm going to take you, we have a year to slowly build you up and bring you through that. For some of you, I know there's a couple of people on the train that run their own businesses, so that may not be a problem. That may not be their, you know, and some of you some people on that don't want to run public classes. That's grand. You can take the same challenges and apply them to something else in your life, not necessarily to the business side. But if you want to run it as a business, how do you price a class? There's another question. How do you take what was your spiritual practice? I just had a call, a one-to-one call there with a student a few minutes ago, and this was her question. You know, how do I price? Do I just look at what's in the market and pick a price? How do I ask for money for what was my spiritual practice? How do I share what was originally a spiritual practice? How do I differentiate my personal practice from my business? How do I run an ethical business? So all of these kind of questions will all come up in this section here. The philosophy, I've spoke a little bit about that and how I come from a broad spectrum, but the Bhagavad Gita will be the book that we're going to be working with. I love the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, well, if you know it, then you know how fantastic it is, and if you don't know it, well, then you'll get to know it. It's one of the primary texts, and there are loads of them, but and we will tie that into the business as well, like I say, you know, sort of questions. The theory of teaching and the practice of teaching. So yeah, I feel quite strongly about teaching and about what our role is as teachers, and where the power balance lies with teachers, and how. So there's one thing about how we teach, the mechanics of it, but there's another thing then about where are we coming from, that we want to empower our students, that we want to, you know, and that we want to help them take responsibility for their health and their wellness, and that we give them tools that they can use in their lives. And so this whole thing, so like I say, tiny bits by tiny bits by tiny bits, we look at teaching philosophy, we'll look at teaching practices then, and you will get to practice and practice a little bit. So by the end of the year, happy days, you will have the confidence to deliver a class, a full set of classes. Also, I will give you a block of 10 classes, beginners classes, which means that for the first year, you can run those same set of classes 3 times, the first term, Christmas to September, September to Christmas, January to Easter, Easter to the summer, or, you know. And if you do take those classes and you do run them 3 times, the same set of classes 3 times, and I'll show you how you differentiate them so that they don't appear to be the same for the classes. But for you as a learning teacher, you take them over that time, that will give you the real strength and confidence to work, to use that material, and then it'll adjust and it'll morph into be your material. But it gives you a really solid foundation, so you can focus on the skill of delivering the material rather than designing it, and then you add on the designing of the material. So bit by bit by bit, you don't have to do it all yourself in the beginning. That's what I'm trying to say to you. So we will help you. We will help you each step of the way. Family-friendly schedule. Now, this is again from my experience as a student. I've put together what would make sense, and my experience as a trainer and a teacher, and how we can layer it up so that it is a simple experience for you to be a learner. And it doesn't take too long out of your day, but that it doesn't become a big thing that happens just once at the end of the day as such, or at the end of the month. And so what we've done is we have set it up so that, let me just, that goes through all of the different things. I'm just going to come down to where there is the schedule. So you can see the schedule, that's the business of yoga. So that's talking a little bit about what we have, the role of mentors. You have a role, you have myself and Sonia and Joanne there that you can meet if you need to have as mentor. And then down here to the family-friendly schedule. So what my idea is that when we break it down, we've got a full year together. So rather than doing blocks and then forgetting all about it, and then another block and forgetting all about it, which is one way of doing it, this way it's more like a drip feed, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little. So that each week you will get a new drop of information. So after the first Saturday, you will have a little bit about anatomy. The following week, you'll have a class, a sana, so class. The following week, you will get meditation or pranayama. The following week, you'll get philosophy or business. And then we meet, and then it starts again. So each week we meet, you get a drop, you get a little piece of information. It could be an hour-long asana class. It could be a 10-minute meditation. It could be a 10-minute talk about meditation with a 10-minute meditation. So little things, and not big things, that you get each week. Then we meet on a Thursday for an hour, just an hour, where we workshop, it's your tutorial, but we workshop the material that's been covered to date. Then once a month on a Saturday we meet, hopefully as much as possible in person, and we review all the material you've done the previous month, and then in the afternoon we set up all the material for the following month. And so this is the way it'll work, is that every month we meet for a full Saturday, and during the week you get a little bit, so that it becomes really easy to do. No big massive kind of blocks from that point of view, so that you can integrate it. My whole idea is, just like our personal practice is integrated into our life, that your training is integrated into your life. So a little bit helps it get a little bit deeper, helps it resonate a little bit more. We will then have one workshop day on the business side of it. So that'll be in September, but we also have then the weekend retreat. So because some of these Saturdays may end up online, and because we have, it's probably the first one or two that will end up online and then we'll be in person, it means that I can adjust things if necessary, and I can push things out if necessary, so that we do online what suits online, we do in person what suits in person. A lot of the material is perfect, it's fantastic online, and a lot of the material doesn't transfer onto online. And so we will have that flexibility. At the moment, we have a retreat booked for May, and that retreat, I have left that completely clear. I've left it clear because I want to be able to fill it with what it is that you want. So as the weeks go on, we'll see what you want a little bit more of, if we're missing a little bit, so we can fill that in. If it happens that everybody is happy out and requires no additional anything, then we just get to have a retreat where we just get to do yoga, and that's it, like nothing else but just be treated to yoga and fed. So that's in May, and that's my like buffer, which will leave us kind of COVID safe, in case there's anything so that's it. Every week a tutorial, a drop of information, once a month the Saturday, the full day retreat, and then there is the one extra workshop on business if that's of interest to you. So the whole idea is about making it, integrating it in through your life, so it becomes kind of easy to do. There's a little bit there about a bit more about us and me and what we're doing, and then down to the payment plan and how it works. So there's 4 days left, or whenever, it depends when you're watching this as to what the current day is. It's closing on the 3rd of January because I need time to get together all the materials and to get people's login set up and all that. There's a good bit of administration involved in getting this set up. So I need to know, I need all that information then by the 3rd of January. There's 3 places left, is all that's left at the minute. And if you are interested, then there's 2 payment plans. There's one is just a single payment. And then the other one is that you can have a monthly payment. You can divide the payment over 11 months, which just means it's €230 each month. So registering for that, then it'll just automatically be taken every month and up until November. So that's it. That's in terms of the payments, and then there's a little bit more about. Cool. Brilliant. So that's a lot of information. I know it's all there anyway, that you can read over it again afterwards and have a look. If you have any questions that you want me to answer. I'm going to go through the questions. I've got a couple of questions that have come in now here. I'm going to go through those questions, but also know that if you want to talk to me about your personal circumstances, or just even talk through, you know, I'm particularly interested in this, will you talk to me a little bit more about how that is, or this is my background, I'm wondering, can I say I've got one of the actually I didn't talk about that a little bit yet. How can I use this? How can and it's one of the questions that came up, is one of the questions Holly asked me, actually I have two people. One asked, can I work full-time and teach? And somebody else was asking me, Denise was asking me, what is the situation with teaching on Zoom and getting work as a yoga teacher. So let me answer a little bit about that. So how you use this, you have, it's very diverse. If you look at where yoga appears and how it appears, it's extremely diverse. And it's pretty much like this course is going to really give you the solid foundations to build on in whatever area you want to work in. So I've said before that I've worked in gyms, I've worked in rehab centers where one of my clients was completely physically restricted. She was in a wheelchair, and that was, I don't know, that was the entire free movement that she had, you know, old folks' homes, schools. I have a couple of people who are currently teachers, and I have a couple of people who are have done yoga teacher training for children and are now doing the adult version. So it's a very big business, big area of growth. So how you use this is really up to you and what suits you. So for example, the question was, Holly asked me, she asked me about working full-time and teaching. That's very actually easy to do. So if you're talking about a 9-to-5 full-time job, and then teaching one evening a week, teaching on a Saturday morning, teaching at a lunchtime class, they're very easy ways of doing it, and that's a really nice way. Joanne, one of the tutors on the course, that's what she's done for years. And that's when a lot of the public classes are available, are outside of business, office business hours. So that's when a lot of those jobs are available. So getting work with a studio, for example, means you don't have to fill the class yourself. You can just turn up and just deliver your class, and the studio owner is the person that puts all the effort and work, and my God, will I tell you, there's effort and work into filling the class for you. And that's a really pleasant way. If you only want to work an hour, a class or two a week, that's a really nice way of doing it. And that's really cool because you get to, if you're paid for it, you get to write off any of your teacher training that you're doing and any workshops and retreats that you want to do. You don't have the business responsibility for it, but you get the pleasure and the joy of teaching it, and you get to have that support to keep your own personal practice because you're teaching a class. If you're teaching in a big organization, an easy way of doing that might be just to set up an evening class or a lunchtime class or an early morning class in that organization and advertise it. You can do that as a student and build your numbers and then start charging proper rates once you're qualified. So that's another nice, really gentle way of easing into it. A lot of the people that I trained with, that's what they do and still do even now, like, you know, 10 years later, that's all they're doing. I don't mean that's all they're doing, but they haven't wanted to, they've enjoyed their career and they wanted to do that. Another thing you could do with it is you could just work retreats, you know, so you could just work a couple of the Saturdays, or you could work, you could travel with it. You can do some of these kind of voluntary peer things where you could take your 2 weeks holidays and go teach yoga for the 2 weeks. Like I said, Amy is looking to do it now so she can travel with it. Yeah, she just wants to travel the world. I have another lady who is going to integrate it into her job. So she works within the mental health service. So again, there's loads of opportunities where she can integrate it into services already provided. So it may never be an actual full, I'm doing a yoga class. It might be a little bit of pranayama at the beginning of something. Or it could be that I know of somebody who's in a recruitment who is also, so maybe she could teach somebody meditation, pranayama, as a part of preparation for a interview. The teachers, again, I've said that they're already looking to integrate it into their class. So, and then there is, you could do what I did, which is just go hell for leather, full-time yoga teacher. initially doing the gigging work, you know, where you get work in all sorts of places, loads of places looking for work. So that kind of whole gig economy from a yoga teacher point of view. And then maybe you want to set up your own classes, maybe you want to hire space, maybe you want to go the whole hog and set up a studio. So there's a full spectrum. Even as a studio owner, do you want to take a boutique studio like what I have, or do you want a big, you know, one of my mates has a studio that takes 50 people in a class. Now that's not my scene, but it's mass, you know, so she's a whole other way of looking at it and different, you know, so even saying running a studio could mean different things. So that's kind of the kind of cool thing about it. So absolutely, to answer the question, can you work full-time and teach? 100%. The bigger difficulty is people who don't want to work evenings and weekends, because that's when most of the work, most of the typical work is available. If you don't want to work evenings and weekends, then you're looking to get corporate work, you're looking for one-to-one clients, you're looking for old folks' homes, services, TY students. You know, again, you're looking at a different market if you don't want to work evenings and weekends. Cool. Hopefully that's answered your question. Let me have a look. Emma was asking about the business, so I think we've talked a lot about supporting you with that whole business development and being confident. You will be confident because you will know your anatomy, you will know your psychology, your physiology, you will understand that, and you will have the and you'll have the skill to teach, and then you will have the confidence to be able to say, you know what you know, you don't know what you don't know, and tell me. You know, someone rocks up and says, well, I've got, you know, can I do yoga? You go, well, I don't know. Tell me more. What is gobbledygook? What is it? Well, how does it affect you? How does it feel? Is it medical? Have you got clearance from your doctor if it's medical? If it's not medical, well, how does it feel? You know, what? You'll have the confidence to have that conversation and then make a decision. Is it something I'm comfortable with or not? Assignment. Oh, I can't believe I forgot about assignment. Thank you so much, Sasha, for that. Assignment. So my intention is that you understand and that you learn and that you grow and that you have confidence. So I want you to tell me if that's not the case. So as we go through the anatomy, there's like a quizzy section at the end of each of the bits. That's not designed to trick you. It's designed to ask you, do you know it? Do you need me to do more? Do you need to go and look up another book? Do you need to read it a bit more? Do you need to, what do you need to do so that you can get to the level you need to be at in your anatomy? In your teaching practice, we're going to be practicing. At the end, there will be your sample class. So you'll be teaching people all along, and at the end, then a group of you will teach the other group. It's a group class. It's not set up to be hard. It's really set up so that you can show off. You can show off where you've come from when you were like a little bunny rabbit in the corner, you know, didn't want anybody to see you, to when you can stand confidently in front of the group and teach. So it's really a showcase. And if on the way, if in your journey you're not meeting the milestones as such, if it's not working for you, then we have to have a conversation where you say, look, I don't know what's blocking me, and we can figure it out, and that you can get support to develop the skills if you need to develop the skills, to reference another book if you need more information, whatever it is. So you're adults, you know, it's not, I'm looking to support you. Be phenomenal yoga teachers. That's what we're looking for. I'll be encouraging you to do personal practice, daily personal practice. I'll be encouraging you to journal. Now, I'm never going to look at your journals, but I will know if you're not journaling because you won't be asking me questions. You won't be, you know, it'll be, so this is for you to get the most out of the course that's possible. So that's where this kind of homework side comes from, which will tie into that other question there that I got from Gillian, which is how much time during a week. During a week, you will have the drop of information, which will range from 10 minutes some weeks to an hour other weeks. You will have the class, which is an hour. You will have your own personal practice. You will have your own journal, which forms part of your personal practice, which is You know, maybe it starts at 10 minutes a day, maybe it works up to an hour a day. Depends on your life, depends on what's going on, depends on how you split it up. But the more you give your personal practice, the better. But it's certainly not more than an hour a day, I would think, unless you're very lucky and have loads of time. You will have, and then the monthly meetings. And then if you start to teach classes, then you'll be teaching classes. If you start, you know, you'll have the preparation, the teaching the classes, and the reviewing and that, you know. So, but there you go. There'll be little things, you know, little sort of practical homework, you know, see if you can walk on your toes for 2 minutes or whatever, those kind of things. But they're kind of integrated. Take a photograph of yourself and set up a Facebook page if that's of interest to you. But they're kind of little small things, nothing too grand. A little bit all the time. That's kind of the idea. Brilliant. Let me see. Have I introduced? Have I gone through all the questions? Let me see how much time it takes. Yes, the assessment. Yes, the philosophy talk about. The personal essay. That is for you from your journal, that you know, periodically will kind of reassess where you're at, see what you need, and you can set up your meeting with your mentor then at that point if you want to, after you've kind of done that. What do we do in lockdown? I've spoke a bit about that. That the dates are the dates, so that you can plan your life. Very important. The dates are the dates. Because I've been on these trainings where you don't know whether you're coming or going. So the dates are the dates. If like in January, we can't leave the county, even though you know, technically we can, because it's for training. It's not a yoga class, it's a yoga teacher training, so you can. So you can get the letter, but we will see once the university opens up again whether we can use the university or not. But if that transfers to online, it'll be the exact same day, and we will just be on Zoom. But the dates are the dates. And like I said, we've got the couple of space. I've got that space. If there's anything that we want to integrate, we can do it in the summer, in that block in the summer. Also, there is no classes during the 2 months of the summer. So that, when I said summer there, I meant May, which is like where we close then for the summer holidays, and then we start back up again in September with the extra business module, and we hit the road. So hopefully you will be teaching by September, should you want to. Cool. Yeah, fantastic. Okay, that's brilliant, Katie. I've answered. Thank Katie, just said, yeah, grand, that's answered her question. Brilliant, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for all of your time. Thank you for being here for so long. So like I say, closes on the 3rd of January. So if you want to set up a private call to discuss your particular circumstances with me, do that immediately, so that you have a chance to think about it, because you want to sleep on it. You'll know already. If you're still listening to me now, then you know. If I had wound you up, and after listening to me for 3 minutes, you said, no, she's not for me, you were no longer listening to me. So if you're listening to me, then you have an idea. Are we a match or not? Is this the year for you or not? Are you ready to take the leap or not? It's that simple. If you're ready to take the leap, then just leap, jump, go for it, you know. And hopefully I will see you soon. Thanks so much.